Now we'll hear from our new CEO, Captain John Murray, who will bring us up to date on Port Canaveral and our activities.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you as well, Mr. Chairman Kuppenbacher. Sorry. I'm the new guy, so I will answer questions at the appropriate time, but let's get started on what's going on in Port Canaveral. 2015 highlights, we partnered with a new terminal partner for a container terminal with GTUSA. The lease commenced, completion of the terminal phase 1, and we had 2 cranes brought in from the Port of Savannah. And as of January, we had a new service start at the facility. We also have a new auto terminal partner and facility lease and completion with phase 1 of an auto terminal. That's on the south side of the port, and we're looking to have our first business with a new partner on targeting the 1st of April. So we'll see if we can hold them to that, but that could be some very exciting new business for us. The Cove Development Agreement with Sooner Development is in the design phase right now and progressing. We've got some dates coming up on that in the near future with some updates, but that is our Cove area, which is restaurants. I don't know if the commissioners on this side are familiar with it, but okay. Cruise facility expansion. We have the opening of Cruise Terminal 1 a year ago, December, I believe it was. It's up and running. That is on the south side. It is going to be the destination of one of the largest cruise ships in the world later in the year, Oasis of the Seas. It is up and running, and we're working very closely with Royal Caribbean to make sure that is a state-of-the-art facility when the new ship comes. We met with them last week, and it's amazing as they point out the size vessel we have today, which is right around 4,000 passengers, and we jumped to the new one, which approaches 6,300 passengers. It's an exponential jump in the volume of business and the amount of people you have to move during the same period of time. So we're working with them already to make sure that's a success when that starts in November. Cruise Terminal 5 is right out here to your left where you see the crane. We have a major expansion there, pier expansion, and the terminal is being completely redone. New parking garage, etc. And we happen to be sitting in Cruise Terminal 10 today, and as soon as Cruise Terminal 5 is completed, the traffic here will move over there, and this terminal will be renovated starting in May to be completed by, I believe, November, or August, I believe. So this is the forecast for cruise terminal traffic going forward. You can see up through 13, our numbers are right up there. We did just about 4 million passengers last year, and that forecast is projected to continue on into the future. Cargo side, all on the most of it's on the north side of the port. Our general cargo is up 21% in the first quarter of 16, fiscal year 16, to almost 1.3 million tons. Revenue is up 32% in the first quarter as well. Cargo auto revenue will continue to develop in the second quarter of 16, with measured growth throughout the year. As I mentioned, the auto business is relatively new for us with a new shipper, a new customer. And the container business just started in January. They're off to a slow start, and we're going to continue focusing on that to ramp that up. For those of you who haven't seen it, the cranes are right to the east of this building. So we also have POV truck exports, petroleum, granite, slag leading in the increases of cargo in the first quarter. Blue Stream is the container service, which is currently calling at the container terminal. They're predominantly a Curacao-based company. This is their only United States port call. They're targeting refrigerated imports from Latin America. Melons seem to be the current product they're moving in. It's also an excellent export opportunity to Central Florida shippers because it's a direct service from Florida to North Europe. And most of the services calling Florida, cargo services, do not go direct to Europe. So usually you have to run the coastline up to at least Norfolk before the sailings actually export to Europe, or sail to Europe. So it's a good transit time for Florida shippers. Existing tenants, Morton Salt, expanded their facility last year. Hanson Materials began a barge distribution that grew in 15 with slag, and that's projected to grow strongly this year. And Seaport Canaveral and Transmontane both grew in 15 with strong current and future business. Net impact of strong logistics, world-class companies. We expect to choose this region as a critical hub for distribution as the population grows in Central Florida. E-commerce world requires essential links to seaport, air, and land transport. It all links together at some point. Most of the air cargo shippers are the same as the water cargo shippers. They move both modes, and there is a logic in the commonality of trying to work jointly on, particularly with some of these global customers. Manufacturing is today built just in time, and anyone that uses Amazon knows that you don't get it right to your destination that quickly unless it's pretty close by to begin with. So, you know, logistic trends, there's a lot of things underway right now in the U.S. Short sea shipping technology, there's a move to get trucks off the highways and lighten up the load on the railroads. So there's a lot of initiatives out of the U.S. Maritime Administration to push a short sea shipping concept, which could be barge, could be small ships. It's really in its infancy right now, but there is a lot of potential. Intermodal rail has been around and will be around. That is the primary mover for commodities throughout the United States. We always have to watch it, though, because intermodal rail sometimes falls behind whatever the next greatest trend is. Last few years, it was moving all the oil on rail cars, and that tended to push the intermodal customers aside just because the freight rate was better on the oil than it was on the intermodal business. So rail capacity is more or less finite, and we're all competing for the same resources. So logistics, of course, we mentioned that. Automation and distribution centers, that's all part of the overall logistics package. In the port, we've got a dredging project underway. It's getting up into the turning basin here pretty soon, and when it's completed later this year, we'll have 500-foot wide channel and 46-foot at the sea buoy, up to 44-foot inside the harbor. We also have approvals to deepen the west turning basin, which is berth 5 and 6 over this way by May 16, and we're looking at feasibility progress as the global ships of the world get bigger and bigger to look at depth as deep as 50 to 55 feet. One of the advantages we have here in Port Canaveral is we're a very short area to dredge relative to other ports that have a long river basin or a much longer route into the port from the sea buoy, and our bottom is relatively easy to dredge compared to some other ports. It's less environmentally sensitive. Just putting a couple items out here. World growth, obviously on the international cargo side, you've got to look at world growth and what's going on in other countries, and we become more and more of a global economy. We're looking to add another 422 million people in the top 10 countries during the next decade. Growth will go 73% in the next 15 years, and trade and GDP is predicted almost even from 20 to 40. We've had a slump a little bit in the international markets just in the last year. There's particularly on the shipping side, there's more capacity than there is volume moving at the moment, largely driven by China and some of the events taking place in Asia. So, you know, it's going to be, we're predicting a steady state growth for this year. It's not going to be the almost double-digit numbers that we've experienced for the last 15 years or so. A couple slides on central population growth. I think everyone here knows that this part of Florida is forecasted to be the fastest growing over the next several years, and most of that growth is expected in the I-4 corridor, and that's going to put more and more demand on our needs for highways, air transport, connectivity between seaports, airports, and connectivity to other areas of the country in order to get product in and out of our state. We're positioned for a great future here in the port. We have a very unique geographic location. The nearest port to the north is Jacksonville. The nearest to the south is really Everglades, Port Everglades, from a commercial perspective. That puts us at a very good geographical location in Central Florida, much better than our friends to the west, just because our location is on the international shipping lanes, whereas our Tampa location on the other side is well off the main shipping patterns. So Port Canaveral is ideally placed. We, however, need to market ourselves. Much of the world still doesn't know who we are. We've done quite a bit with Orlando, local partnerships here, but we need to get ourselves into the international limelight so that the international players know we're here. We've got a lot to sell, a lot to bring to the table. We just got to get ourselves out there.
I think we'd be agreeable to your changing your name to Orlando International Port.
You know, I have to defer to my commissioners on the right over here to see what their views are on that. That's not my decision, sir. Be glad to bring it up if you next meeting. What are we going to do in 2016? Well, we've got the new container operations. We've got to really focus on them. We have a significant investment there, and it's time to start earning a return on that investment. I mentioned the new auto processor agreements. We've got two. One is got some serious potential for this area, and we're really excited about that. We have to develop and further refine our drayage opportunities and how we access the FEC Railroad. Right now, Port Canaveral is not considered an intermodal hub, and we need to develop a methodology on how we access the rail, and we'll have to work with the FEC on that. And then the interesting part, or the great part that we're all going to experience, is we're going to have some of the largest cruise ships in here by the end of this year, added to our home port lineup. And it's really exciting, the ships that are coming. One thing I just did want to talk about a little bit is there's a new piece of legislation that the President signed into law last year called the FAST Act, and basically it's Fixing America's Surface Transportation. It's geared toward highways, it's geared toward rail infrastructure throughout the United States, bridges, et cetera. But there is a key component to that I think, you know, we can jointly work on some projects here that might help us both. It's you know, for example, and I just put this up as an example of the type of project would qualify for FAST Act funding, is the Highway 401 drawbridge, which everybody came over to come out to our facility today, is a single point of potential failure for a major port and our connectivity with the rest of the state through the highway distribution network. Most of our cargo terminals are on the North Shore, and I'll just go to the next slide. It links Canaveral to Central Florida for gasoline, jet fuel, liquid products, including the airport. It's not really well known, but I think we're probably getting close to 40% of the jet fuel is coming from SeaPort-Canaveral. And they're moving close to 200 trucks a day on this corridor. Most of that fuel is gasoline. It's not going by pipeline to Orlando. It's moving by truck. And we need that highway to make sure that the product gets to your markets. It's also the access for all four of these major cruise terminals that we have. We have two on the other side, but the vast majority of our passenger throughput comes to these at this point in time. Also, our import-export container distribution's got to come off this same road. And we also have the general cargo, and lastly, the Air Force, Navy, and Coast Guard base access is also via the same road. And one of the issues with the bridge is it's a drawbridge. It's an on-demand bridge. It's only got an air draft of 24 feet ballpark. So anytime on a weekend we'd be loading passengers out here and the fuel trucks are moving and somebody with a sailboat comes in, bridge goes up, traffic backs up. Getting the right bridge there that would be less susceptible to storm damage, et cetera, that would be an overpass that we wouldn't have to open, would be a great project, and it would really open up the access to Orlando and the highway system. So we hope to work with you on that in a future project. We're just starting to get our ducks in a row on this one, and we'll start to build the case for a replacement bridge. So, and I thank you for your time. Questions?
Much. I don't know if this is on or not, but I'm wondering, you had very impressive growth with your shipping revenues. I think it was up 32%, and wondering how much of that, if any, is in direct relationship with the Panama Canal expansion, or is that mostly benefiting the West Coast?
You know, the West Coast of the United States or the West Coast of Florida?
Florida.
No, you know, I have a very strong opinion on the Panama Canal. I think it's going to be a blip that nobody even notices. Most of the markets that are trading through the Suez Canal today are doing so because the manufacturing sector in Asia has really moved south into Southeast Asia. When you take Southeast Asia and you put it on a map to the U.S. East Coast, it's not much different in distance to go through Panama versus Suez. And Suez right now can take the bigger ships, so the big ships are already going that way. The other thing that I believe is if there was really an impact from the canal, you'd already be feeling it. All we're going to do is bring bigger ships through. That doesn't mean that now all of a sudden the big ships got to find a place to go when they're coming here. I mean, the market is the market, and as it grows, it's just going to get bigger. It's not necessarily going to be some explosive change in the current paradigm. And I also believe, as I said earlier, the West Coast is not going to benefit more than the East Coast. We'll benefit more than them because we're on the main shipping lanes. I mean, most of the shipping lanes that come to the United States, Central America, running right down the eastern seaboard of Florida. Very few trades, and really there's only one container service in the Gulf of Mexico now that goes to Tampa, and that's because Tampa is such a deviation and it's a long way up the bay to the actual docks. And it's a deviation if you're looking at where the volume of business is really in the West Gulf from Mobile to Houston. That's where most of the container traffic is going. So it's simple math about if you go to Tampa, you might have to add an extra ship. That's millions of dollars, so it doesn't make the cut. That's simple economics. So to answer your question, I don't see a big change with the Panama Canal. Not anything earth-shattering when it opens that we're going to see this big rush of business.
Thank you.
So.
Excellent. Great presentation.
Anything else? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, John.